Everyone, it's Kasia from Tarot Map, and this is my continuation of 31 Days of Tarot by Ethany. I'm hoping to finish it in this sitting. I will skip some of the questions, but I will let you know which ones. So, day number 20. Share one tarot myth you used to believe and why you stopped believing it. I'm actually busting a lot of tarot myths, especially here in Poland, in Polish tarot community. When I started learning tarot, there was a lot of myths, and I'm not a very myth believing person. I will take it on board, but then I will sit with it, and think, do I have to have a grandmother who read tarot to read tarot? No. Do I have to wait for somebody to buy me a tarot deck? No. Do I have to be careful with using second-hand decks? Oh God, no. I would be dead by now, having most of my decks second-hand. So when I was trying it on myself and I was thinking like, why is this fear attached to all of this tarot stuff? I couldn't find too many answers why. I guess you can look into religion, you can look into like beliefs and personal conditioning, and that's all fine. If you want to believe it, free to go. I just didn't really believe any tarot myths, and I was checking most of those myths on myself to then bust them. Share some of your favorite deck storage. That's I'm going to skip because I keep my decks in bags or in boxes. I don't have anything specific to share with you, which is like wow, like Linden Hertz, who makes amazing tarot boxes and stuff like that. 22. Share the card that was the hardest for you to get when you were first learning the tarot. How do you feel about the card now? And this is an interesting one. I actually picked a card that I want to share with you. Give me a sec. Because this card is still a little bit mysterious to me, and this is my kind of by Golden Dawn my card because it's Temperance. So let's start with traditional look. So let's start with maybe Tarot de Marseille. So this is the Temperance. So we see like an angelic kind of figure looking towards the past. So when we ask like where do you look, what's before you, or that's how you're going to see it, she's looking at the skeleton and death, trying to rip out stuff, or she's looking at what the death already did and then trying to introduce some balance to what has happened. Or maybe she's looking at death, that death looks quite scary, and she's trying for all the reasons to keep the balance and not go with the changes. After Temperance, we have the Devil. And we can see how the two vases change into the two little people here, and how the angelic being changes into another kind of angelic being, but it's a devil. Also with wings, kind of looking at you, trying to show you maybe where you didn't succeed with creating that balance. So to me, when I look at Tarot de Marseille cards, here I have this little Jean Noble booklet. And Jean Flournoy writes that after the great cleansing of Trump 13, energy begins at last to circulate in the individual. Temperance represents this vitality as a flow between two vases. So this would be like symbolic vitality, back to life force. At her forehead, a third eye, a red disc, showing that she is consciously linked to the surrounding world. She's winged because she can, through her own force, gain the subtle heights, even if she remains firmly earthbound. So there's this connection of the worlds. So definitely Temperance can be seen as a bridge between two worlds. Now that the individual is in balance, he begins to discover his profound vocation. he has a premonition of his own sacred talents. His capacity for seeing things and individuals from within awakens. The memory of the universe nourishes and instructs. The wings indicate that this very human capacity for perception can lead to far greater levels of intuition and knowledge. The conscious and unconscious can at least work together. The results are surprising. So at this stage, the individual often feels impelled to develop new talents. Even if these long remain secondary, he is aware of their basic importance and senses that they will form the core of his access to mastery. He begins to really feel that he exists. Amazing synchronicities become common. That's nice. Events are juxtaposed with incredible pertinence. Curiosity and inner fluidity are in place. All is ready for the sacred fire. The body is now primed for the great awakening of the inner energies, that welling up of vital force which the Hindus call Kundalini. The dance of the devil can now begin. So this is the historical kind of take on maybe historical, Jean Floneroy's take on temperance and the place where temperance is positioned in the sequence of tarot, right? Then when we look at Rider-Waite-Smith, we also see, we see a different scenario a little bit. This death is coming towards the temperance, and temperance is kind of also the winged figure, 1 foot on earth, 1 foot in the water, pouring the vases. There's the sunlight, the path, and the wings. Also that solar disc, which was present on the historical temperance as well. So what does Edward White, what does he says? This is from the Key to Tarot. So let's go to the roots, right? So temperance, and that's why I had issue with this card, because I'm thinking, what the fuck are you about? So what White writes about it is, first, a winged female figure, usually regarded as an angel, is pouring liquid from one pitcher to another. Okay, we'll see that. The first thing which seems clear on the surface is that the symbol has no special connection with temperance, making the image a very obvious instance of a meaning behind meaning, as is often the case with tarot as a whole. That's it. That's his chapter, little paragraph on temperance. So obviously whatever we see is not really about temperance. And then he has another description of temperance, and he writes, a winged angel with the signs of the sun upon its forehead, and on its breast the square and triangle of the septenary. Although some regard this angel as feminine, it is neither male nor female. It is held to be pouring the essences of life from chalice to chalice. It has 1 foot upon the earth and 1 upon water, so illustrating the nature of the essences. A direct path goes up to certain heights on the verge of the horizon, and above there is a great light. So that's this. Through which a crown is seen vaguely. Here is some part of the secret of eternal life, as it is possible to man in his incarnation. So again, that's it. That's all we know from Edward White about temperance. So definitely it's a hidden meaning behind the meaning. It's not as obvious as what we see on the picture. And there is some indication of eternal life, that it's available to us this lifetime. And this mixing kind of balancing forces. So then when we start going with, other tarot decks, just to see what other authors and creators took from temperance. So here in Margaret Peterson tarot, Margaret Peterson writes this little poem, and she calls temperance mediatrix. I like this because this is like a connecting the words. So she writes here, you have fire and water. Even though in Edward White, he wrote water and earth, right? Connecting these two realms. So here we have fire and water. It's more golden dawn also. The cosmic mixer. mediating between personal and superpersonal realms, rainbow body. So often on the Temperance card we see the rainbow symbol, changing the 7 poisons into the 7 wisdoms. Cleansed, you stand between death and the devil, representing the knowledge of measuring and timing. You are vessel and content, the ever-changing flow of life force. And often also I got this kind of depiction of temperance as this perfect timing of things, that there's there's time for everything, and then temperance is this natural flow. In Lisa de Saint Croix, she depicts temperance this way. And the meaning of the card is, by combining different energies, something greater is created. Through the integration of spiritual and physical energy, of the unconscious and conscious, revelation comes. So this is creation through union. And I quite like how she describes the temperance card. So this is like mediatrix of conscious and unconscious, and she's between death and devil. She's trying to, keep the balance between quite powerful disrupting energies and changeable energies. And through this integration of spiritual and physical, some revelations can come. So often she is, or is she, this card represents some connection to the higher guidance, to looking out for signs and synchronicities outside, to staying in the flow of things and being that medium kind of man between the worlds. In Dark Goddess Tarot, Ellen Lorenzi Prince calls temperance alchemy. And the quote says, fire purifies, water restores. And she gives, when Bridget appears, so Bridget is the representation of alchemy, and she says the situation is improved by adding a combination of skill and attention. So again, that bridging between something physical and something mental or something spiritual, like focus. Difficult feelings require expression, not suppression. Keen your grief, speak your rage, forge your purpose. Pull the personal pain out of your soul for the fuel to make something tangible from it. Show the world what it is and what it should be. Bring your regular practice to another level through the implementation of a grander vision and a deeper desire. Often in Thoth decks, temperance is called art. So it's this artistic vision also, that desire to create more, to integrate, to work between the worlds. Find inspiration in the elemental world. Observe the will and the dance of fire. Sense the mystery and the wisdom of water. So connection here, water and fire. So elements in general. Bring balance into your life. So here is the balance as a big one. But it's connected to Sagittarius, and I think maybe this is what we should strive for, because I don't find Sagittarians to be a very balanced fire sign. We're kind of very mutable, very changeable. We always think the grass is greener somewhere else. So maybe that's what we should strive for. If you feel too withdrawn, add activity. Stretch your legs, your arms, your neck, your mind. If you feel too busy, add quietude. Turn off the music, the program, the monologue, the lights. Balance is not a static, but a living process. And I think this is beautiful for the temperance, that balance is not a static, but a living process. It is a measured flow, graceful dance performed every day. From Robert M. Place, we have temperance, that's pouring water on fire, on appetite. So, alchemical process going on, but also keeping that balance and that harmony. In Voyager Tarot, which I also pulled out to check it out, like Thoth-based kind of deck, it's art. So we also see fire, we see ice, water, we see rainbow. And art here is represented by goddess Athena, which you can see her over here. And she's the patron goddess of the arts and symbolizes the law of creativity. So you are a creative artist in all aspects of being and in all endeavors in life. So also this artistic, creative force. I think when you're a mediator between the worlds, that's where the creativity kicks in. And creativity is an alchemical art of dissolving old forms and recombining them as a new synthesis. That's why it's also called like this holy marriage, right? In Tov deck, in the art form, we have this connection of the lovers. They mix now, they become one. Use this integration in your life as a creative opportunity as well. Um, and your creativity is the results of interweaving your faculties. So also this connecting things in temperance. As Sagittarius, communicate yourself and your inspiration to the world by shooting forth through the rainbow your ideas, visions, and products. Your creative expression, like the orchid, has an impact on the world. The shadow or negative side of art, the creative alchemist can have an unbalanced, almost addiction to creativity that ignores inner reflection, patience, stillness, and qualities of being for the excitement of doing and acting. So that's maybe the shadow of Sagittarius. When we don't have patience, we need to take conscious breaks and release our minds from constant shooting those arrows. So this is the Temperance card, and I was just right now, I understand this card much more, but it's still like in the reading, when I want to bring it down to practical, I usually go with this creative, in between the worlds, coming after death, but before devil. So that this need to creating that balance and harmony. But yeah, as you can see, especially from the key to tarot, you don't really get too much information about temperance itself from the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So yeah, so this is the card that you know it's still kind of a mystery a little bit to me to get it like really on a deep level. So then we have decks that I broke up with, that no longer resonate with me. So I mentioned before Tarot of the Vampires by Ian Daniels. I just knew I will never use this deck, so I sold it. I also was surprised, but yeah, I didn't resonate with Shamanette or Mesquite Tarot, which I thought I would because they're beautiful decks and along my lines, something which art-wise would be something which I would definitely say yes, please. And I had both of them, but I didn't connect. So we broke up. um, if you could design 79th tarot card that everyone would use, what would it look like? I don't know. I kind of enjoy our tarot system. I think it has everything. I quite like the cards like, the Fountain or the Seeker or the Moon cards, like the phases of the moon. So maybe I would go for something like Cycles, but we can get it from the Wheel of Fortune or from High Priestess or from the Moon. So I think probably I'm happy with tarot as it is. Tarot or Oracle, which would you read with for the rest of your life if I had to choose? Definitely tarot, because there's so many tarot decks and some of them look like oracles, so yeah, I would go with tarot. Thoughts of tarot becoming mainstream. Well, I think it is becoming more and more mainstream, definitely, but it's still a niche, we kind of circulate within this probably few percent of society that it's interested in tarot. So it seems like everyone is interested in tarot, but it's not the case. But it does get into the mainstream of like art and paintings, artwork, even like the fashion, bags and stuff like this. So this is quite fascinating to watch. I think why not, if anyone is interested to tarot, let's bring it down to earth without, and there's so many decks, especially the historical Marseille type decks that are not so esoterically packed, so people don't have to be scared, because I spoke to many people here in Poland that they're not too keen on the esoteric side of tarot, but even a lot of modern tarot like Anna Kay tarot skip that esoteric stuff, and you can still connect to just archetypal energies of each of the decks and archetypes of the major arcana and minor arcana. I love that, and why not? I would encourage everyone to play with tarot, but I also want to mention that tarot is not for everyone, and you have to know for yourself. I know a lot of people who get addicted to tarot who cannot, make any decision based on their own intuition, but they have to look for cards, and they go from reader to reader to get kind of confirmation of what they feel. Like, this is dangerous. This is this is devil, this is then devilish. This is when tarot, or your perception of tarot, takes hold of you. And this is not tarot fault, by the way, but this is your own personal work and your own shadow, where you have to find, how you can face the devil. So if you feel like you're getting addicted to it, just look into it, because this is not how what tarot is meant to be. Tarot is meant to expand your options and explore your life and make it richer and more beautiful and more colorful, rather than narrow and you can only do this because tarot said so. Like, this is just bullshit. So yeah, mainstream, why not? Definitely, but be careful how you treat that and how you let it in to your life. Share your first professional reading experience. Well, as a tarot querent, I got my first reading from a friend of mine in Australia, and I loved it. But I was always drawn to tarot since, like, for many years before, so I was kind of reading for myself before, but I never was very, sure what I'm doing, if it's right or not. Like, I just didn't have any structure to my learning. And after this reading, I really loved it, but I got into tarot through astrology. First, I was really passionate and crazy about astrology. I breathed, snoozed, spoke only astrology for a few years only. Studied, read only books, talked only about astrology. It was probably pretty boring then to many people. But after that time, yeah, I got into tarot, and as my professional way of, professional reader, I started probably doing professional readings 2014, and I have to say that some of the first readings were pretty shit. I'm sorry, I was learning, I was charging very little just to have some kind of energy exchange, just to study and to practice. And I really strongly believe that practice makes master. So if you feel like, you had some hiccups and you couldn't, you weren't so proud of yourself of how you read, and stuff didn't go according to plan, and, that ideal plan, that's okay. We all make these mistakes, or maybe not all. I made these mistakes as well, and now I can honestly say I feel like I'm a good reader, and I can really be supportive and helpful to people. But to get to the state when you're okay with saying that in public on YouTube, you have to have quite a few fuck ups. So I just want to encourage all of the readers who start, don't be too harsh on yourself. Try to pick up where you made a mistake and move on. And you might get to the point when you will be happy with the way you read. And we always students of tarot. Tarot doesn't you don't just get tarot and that's it, and you never learn anything new. You do. So just give yourself a little pat on the shoulders and just try, fail, try again, like Samuel Beckett said. Share one celebrity. I skip this question. I don't really care. What are your beliefs around the mechanics of a reading? I think it works similar to astrology. I believe in synchronicity and reflection of who we are, what we really believe, what we create, and how we see the reality and how we see the universe, how we see our lives. What we believe, it's also what we kind of get from the outside world. So I believe in this kind of reflective quality of tarot. I think that's how it mostly works. That's why sometimes tarot reflects our deepest fears of our deepest dreams. And sometimes we can take fears much better than the dreams. So we're sometimes more afraid of our greatness than of our failures, because to failure, it's like, oh yeah, you kind of get it easy on. But to say I'm great at something, we kind of have these blockages and a lot of limitations around that. So I think as above, so below, and I see it working for astrology for so many years now perfectly. I think with tarot cards, maybe it's a little bit more difficult because it's so wide. The archetypes are so multi-layered, so depends on which level you read for someone. But I think the synchronicity and reflective kind of mirroring quality, this is how tarot works, and that's why this is a reflective tool. And I often like to use the cards not as what's going to happen, but what may happen and how could you deal with it if that happened this way, or what can you, like, how can you be warned or made aware of something that might come your way and prepare for this better. So I think this is quite cool tool for self-exploration and also for making decisions, for really checking with yourself, what the fuck are you feeling right now? Because sometimes we like so insecure, or we're not really aligned with our higher minds, with this temperance, you know. So yeah, that's perfect description of how tarot works for me. And then the last two questions: what is the most culturally inclusive deck you own? I think the Tarot de San Croix, it's really well put together with all the indigenous people, black people, white people, small, medium, large, old, young. It's really cool. I quite like this Voyager Tarot also. It has the mixture of a lot of cultures. I think also the Mad Tarot, I know it's out of print, but Mad Tarot, it's quite versatile. And recently I watched Christine Celeste video on past life readings, and I think Mad Tarot would be cool for past life readings as well, because she mentioned Stretch Tarot, but because it has a lot of different cultures, a lot of different people, in general a lot of people, and it has a lot of different eras. And I think Mad Tarot is very similar to this as well. It has different cultures, different eras, lots of people. So that would be quite an inclusive deck. And what are your favorite tarot applications? I have the Fool's Dog app on my phone, so it's just this. That's what I had. But I have to say that I very rarely use them. They're great applications. So you have, like, you know, new reading, draw a card, today's card, journal, and fairy tale tarot. Lots of people want to have this deck, and it's available online for like $8, and you have the full book as well with it, which is awesome. So you can like draw a card. So you have the card here, and you click on and you have the information. Oops, you have. Sorry. You have the information, and here you can get full text from the book. So I think this is great. But I have the fairy tale tarot now physical, and just these applications, it's better to get it on your phone when you have no decks. But yeah, it's not my favorite to use the electronic version of the cards. But the Fool's Dog application is very cool, so I recommend it if you like to use those electronic things. Wow. Anthony, thank you for organizing this again. It was great to join in. I've met again a lot of new channels, which is, I think, the best side of this challenge, that we get to know each other, we get to know new channels, we connect with each other a little bit more, because it's much more like structured, and you have to do it every day. So it was lovely to do that again. Thank you, and thanks everyone for watching, and I speak to you soon. Bye.